Another Friday vlog. Camera tweak. I switched over to 30 today, so it's instead of 24p, it's 30 frames per second today. My voice is super low today. It's not great. Clearly, I haven't talked. Did I write? Just the writer's room again, which, for respect of the room, can't really go into. Did I read? No. What did I watch? I'm almost done going through the whole series of Battlestar Galactica again. Yeah. So I'm episode 11 of season 4. So I've seen a lot of episodes. Still a great show. I definitely have always disliked the final season far and away more than the rest of them, and that's still the case. I'm starting to understand why they made choices that they did, though, because the first season was very straightforward, and the second season was just like a addition to the first season. And then third season got a little weird, and they definitely had an end game in sight. And then the fourth season, they kept going towards that end game, but added a bunch of other complications. But the complications, I don't know if they escalated the stakes so much as they made, at least what I understood to be the story, they undermined parts of the story. It got too magic-y. It was pretty grounded in its rules initially, and then all of a sudden season 4, end of season 3, beginning of season 4 became magic-y. And for some reason I fell off. Anyway, so I've been watching that. Still love it. Still think it was way ahead of its time as far as TV goes, and just now that I understand production more, I'm astounded that they accomplished what they did, especially for how many episodes they made in a season. I think most of the seasons were 22 or 24 episodes, which is just crazy. Pretty impressive stuff. There should be classes taught about Battlestar Galactica. I feel like some colleges offer Sopranos as a class. They should offer Battlestar Galactica as a college course in storytelling and filmmaking, and how to work with massive ensembles, and how to tell stories that change genres, and just it touched a bit of everything. I think the only thing Battlestar Galactica didn't really mess with was a true broad comedy. I don't think they ever really took a swing at broad comedy, but it wouldn't have made sense for them to even try that. So, which Star Trek would. That's the thing Star Trek would do, because they like to touch everything. So Battlestar Galactica, the better Star Trek. I also saw Tag. I liked it. It's doing okay in the box office. I was excited to see it. I think I talked last week about how maybe if it has a lot of success, it will be a way for that kind of movie to get made more, and then it didn't really make enough success for that to happen. But I recognized the writing, and I was like, where do I know this from? It was co-written by Rob McKittrick, whose only other movie is, he has a couple movies, but only other movie that you would ever have heard of is Waiting. That movie where they're at the restaurant, and it's a day in the life of the restaurant, and it's a dark R-rated comedy, which is one of my favorite movies, honestly. So I recognized his comedy style in Tag, and yeah, sure enough, good for him, because Waiting came out 15 years ago. So there's been a 15-year gap between, released theater movies that he's made. So I think. I don't know. Writing tip, I borrowed it from Pete Docter, who wrote Toy Story 2 and Toy Story and Inside Out and Up. So he's one of the highest echelon Pixar guys. I'm just reading an article on people quoting him throughout the years off of Film School Rejects, and one of them was make lists. And I have done this my entire life, not necessarily out of creativity, but out of necessity. But yeah, he talks about making lists, and the way he pitched it, I think, is a really good pitch, which was a character has an obstacle, and if you just keep pitching one idea after the other how to fix that obstacle, you're not going to get very far. But if you make an enormous list of everything that could possibly happen, you can zero in on the most interesting thing, which is exactly what I do when I'm breaking story constantly. Just walls and walls of lists of stuff, as specific as possible, like starting vague and then getting increasingly specific. So make lists. Thank you, Pete Docter. Co-father of Pixar. Box office, I got 5 out of 5. Not that it was hard. Last week was Incredibles 2, which did incredible. Ocean's 8, Tag, Solo, and Deadpool. And I got them all. This week, Jurassic World's coming out, and it's supposed to be crazy. I didn't see the last Jurassic World in theaters, but I saw it later, and it was good. But this one is supposed to be incredible. Although to me, it just looks like the first Jurassic World was just a rehash of Jurassic Park, the first movie. This one looks like a rehash of The Lost World Jurassic Park. I'll watch it, but I just like the idea that it just feels like they're cheating a little bit, or feels like they're trying to trick us by telling the same story but not admitting that's the same story. Like the second Star Trek, the second Star Trek movie recently, so not Into Darkness, but the one before that, was pretty much the same thing. It was just a rehash of the Wrath of Khan, which, for a fan, kind of leaves a bit of a bitter taste, because at least you should just acknowledge that, hey, we're doing the Wrath of Khan. Same thing with Jurassic Park. Having said that, their audience is everyone, which doesn't necessarily cater to fans so much as everyone, and so I understand why they're basically doing the Lost World again, but make a new story, man. You have a really interesting world. You have an opportunity to tell a story that's not the same story that's been told. That's kind of like the point of storytelling, is coming up with a new way to, and I'm not convinced Jurassic World 2 Fallen Kingdom is going to be that much of a deviation from something that's already been made in the Jurassic Park canon. So I'll go watch it. I like Chris Pratt. I like Bryce Dallas Howard. So Jurassic World, Incredibles 2, Ocean's 8, Tag, Solo. I'd be very surprised if I didn't get 5 out of 5. The last thing. Recommendation. Because I've been watching Battlestar Galactica, and it's like Battlestar Galactica, the Ronald D. Moore version, the version that I'm talking about, the newer version, he specifically in the Bible in his Bible, which is the sort of the manuscript that the show, or at least the first season of the show, is pitched as. So he once he got the show, he wrote this Bible talking about where characters are going to go, all this stuff. Anyway, that's kind of what a Bible is. He very much was like, I'm a fan of Star Trek. Star Trek does this, this, and this. I want to take out a few of these things of Star Trek and like do them properly and ignore some of these other things that I think detracted from telling a Star Trek style story. So I just want to tell Star Trek. And I think Battlestar Galactica, part of what's so strong about it is it takes the idea of Star Trek, of a Star Trek, but not banging aliens as like the main goal, but you know, an even more unglorified look at human society and what the hell we're all doing. But it's really important to acknowledge that although Battlestar Galactica, I think, stands on its own as one of the most phenomenal pieces of television that's ever existed, its roots are specifically in Star Trek. Having said that, my recommendation is Galaxy Quest, which you might have seen, but if you haven't seen, or if you haven't seen it in a while, it's worth watching again. The more grown up I get, the more I appreciate it, because that was written by Star Trek writers who wanted to write a satire about the Star Trek pop culture aspect of it, because Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica honestly had a very similar path where it became a pop culture thing where people would go to meet the actors and all this stuff, you know. Basically everything we love about TV, Star Trek pioneered that sort of counterculture of fans doing that. Battlestar Galactica also, just because it was so good and was a similar fan base, had a similar experience with fan aggression and fandom and all this stuff. And now fandom is such a commonplace thing that it's not even in the fringes anymore. It's standard. Like Comic-Con is corporate-y now. That's such a cliched thing to say. Anyway, so Galaxy Quest was written by Star Trek writers, but it's a comedy, and it's a dark comedy, and it's a satire of basically William Shatner's lifestyle when Star Trek became popular. And it's great. And somewhere, I think Amazon or somebody was developing Galaxy Quest as a TV show, which would be awesome, because my only real issue with Galaxy Quest is it ended. It was a film, so it had a beginning, middle, and end. You could continue it, but you would have to continue it the way a film continues it. Whereas Star Trek, in its best form, is a TV show, and so to make a proper satire of that in its best form would also be a TV show. So, but I think it went into turnaround, which means it's dead. That's it. Still 14 minutes. Oh, come on, man. I haven't done anything this week. I've just been without my car, so I just decided to spend the week really working on my film, and I have. Boy, did I. Editing takes so long. Going through all the emotions about it, but it's back to a place in my head where I'm optimistic and I like it again. So that's important, because you know, isn't that there's a masterclass. I watch YouTube all the time. Masterclass just constantly pops up, and is it Scorsese? I think it's Scorsese's directing class. In the teaser, it's like, if you watch your first cut, your rough cut of your film, and you don't get physically ill, you've done something wrong. Yeah. So which is not to say I'm physically ill by my film. It's just that, you know, You have really good days and you have really, really bad days. It's been a mixture of both. Keep writing. I'm pretty happy with the colors today. It's very dark in my room, but I think that's helping because my face is actually properly lit today. All right, bye.